Hey guys, thanks for joining me again on my part 2 video of how to start a fashion drawing. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I start my painting process. And of course, all the materials are listed below in the description box, as well as where I got my reference image of Burberry. So first I start with my base layer, so I'm just painting that in. And what I do next is I try to darken in the shadow areas, so in the eyes, underneath the nose, underneath the mouth, and the chin. You can already see some depth coming out just from that wash. I also like to use a pink tint for the blush. I don't really like having a harsh line for the cheekbone area. To me, it feels a little bit outdated, but it's up to you. So then next, I always do a base wash for the lips, just to explore the shape. And I mirror that on the eyeshadows and somewhere along the neck. And this technique is quite similar to my values. It's creating layer by layer. And what's interesting about using water-based paints is that you have to know the timing of when the water is going to dry. And so while that's drying, I tend to just go all over the place. So I work on one area and wait for it to dry. I'm doing another area, so you don't really lose time. And so you can see me working around the whole face constantly. And with my thinner brushes, the Winsor Newton 7 series, I darken it up a little bit more. And the way I paint, I kind of think of it as drawing. So I'm using the paintbrush like a pencil and getting it into the finer details. So you can see I love doing hair strokes, so it looks like real eyebrows, and creating ridges and shadow. And of course, I love using my hands as a tool. Very helpful. So I do give a lot of attention to the eyes and the eyebrows just because they're my favorites to do. And you can see how that dark contrast just makes it pop. And I love seeing that come to life. I do love a bit of color underneath the eyes. So with painting, it's quite fun because there's a lot of a beauty element to it. So coloring in the lips. And I do go over the lips quite a bit. I do add lots of layers. And because in painting the rule is you want to go light to dark, not dark to light. It's kind of hard to fix darker values when you go too dark too quick. So I'm just sculpting the eyes out. Making sure the eyebrows are there. Defining the edges. And then adding the shapes for the coat. So I love adding all these textures, using different size brushes. And of course, adding my color pencils. Like I mentioned in the previous video, sometimes with the paintbrush it can be a bit hard to control with the water. You have to have really good hand muscles. But I find with the color pencil, you have a lot more control. So I do mix them together actually. And I think that's really exciting about fashion illustration is that there is no right or wrong way to approach an illustration. There's so much room for experimentation. And it's quite exciting. So I'm building this character up with lots of different paintbrush sizes. So each paintbrush has a different tip. So you can have these thin lines, thicker lines. If you want to do lots of shadows, I do tend to use a longer, wider brush. And also what I love about wet media is that you can build values really easily. So with my hair, you can see my darker values, my lighter values, different colors mixed together. You know, it's quite versatile, and I'm using gouache mixed with watercolor. And I try to mimic the colors into the face so it doesn't look separate. And of course, once it's a bit dry, I can then go in and add my darker values to make it pop. So at this stage, I like to put textures in the background, because then you can solidify the edges afterwards. And then of course, all the details of the earrings. So again, mixing the use of dry media and wet media. And what I do is once the wet media is dry, I can then go in with my pencil and create more details. I think that's some of the obsession we have as illustrators. We just want to focus on the face. But I'm kind of branching out and learning to enjoy these little tiny details of jewelry, different ways of approaching the shapes. Maybe no line or line, just leaving negative space or positive space. Using different techniques like hatching, circular lines, you know, it's a combination of lines and shapes that make an interesting drawing. At least for me. And what this has taught me is to really have patience with the drawing. Sometimes I feel like, you know, if you're not happy with first line or the first couple lines, you kind of throw it away or you turn the page and you know you don't want to pursue it. But I realize you have to really go in and destroy the drawing to know next time what route to take, what route not to take. And it's an interesting fight I find with yourself as an illustrator or an artist, is that constant battle of, you know, is this good enough or what am I doing? But I think I have to keep reminding myself as well that it's just techniques that I want to try out. It doesn't matter if the drawing is going to be amazing or if it's going to look really shit. But the key point is that you really have to just keep doing it and try. And I know that's easier said than done, and it's something I have to remind myself constantly. So you can see the difference between the dark value here and the other side, which is a bit lighter. So I'm trying to think where the light source is coming. And just to give variation of values. And of course, I love adding the shadows. So adding a bit more shadow underneath the neck. And I do like to add a little bit of shadow around the face so it creates more depth, like she's actually in a space. And it can be just as simple as this. So again, going in with my finer paint brushes and adding a bit more texture and detail. And because the coat is really black, I'm trying to match the contrast level with the eyes, the hair. And of course, I love my edges. And sometimes I feel like my colors are too muted. So I love these pencils because they're just so saturated and it helps make it pop a little bit. So I'm using that red for the shirt detail. And yeah, I'm really enjoying doing this process. And I hope you enjoyed watching it because it was really fun to do. Let's have a look close up. So at this stage, I just put some finishing touches. So I'm adding a little bit more contrast with the red. As I said, my colors are really muted, so I'm really trying out different things. See if they work. Maybe it's good or maybe it's bad, you never know. So yeah, that was my painting process of the Burberry look from Fall/Winter 2019. I hope you really enjoyed it. It was really nice to share with you my painting process and do a little bit of ranting about art. So if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel and I will see you very shortly.